Good morning. My name is Lee Corey, and I'm the managing partner of Smart Business. On behalf of the entire Smart Business team and all of our sponsors, I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Cleveland Smart Business Dealmakers Conference presented by First National Bank. We have a star-studded lineup of roughly 50 speakers today, including timely interviews with business leaders and deal makers that will be streaming on the event platform throughout the day. Part of our goal today is to empower you to connect the dots. At today's conference, you can join general and topical networking sessions, offer questions to our panelists during live Q&A sessions, join small group video meetings, and even schedule one-to-one Zoom calls with other attendees. Today's event is brought to you in partnership with over 20 leading organizations, and I'd like to extend special thank you to Jeff Bechtel at First National Bank, our presenting sponsor. To help us plan this year's Dealmakers Conference, we've formed a host committee of leading entrepreneurs, investors, and advisors from around the region. I'd like to thank each one of them, as what you see today is a collective effort on their behalf. Now I'd like to turn it over to our presenting sponsor, Jeff Bechtel, President of First National Bank. Thanks, Jeff.
Welcome to the 2021 Cleveland Dealmakers Conference. On behalf of First National Bank, we are elated to bring you this M&A event, which highlights deal making in the region. Founded in 1864, FNB operates in 7 states and Washington, D.C., with nearly 340 branches and more than 800 ATMs. We have more than $38 billion in assets and $30 billion in deposits. FNB is the winner of more than 65 Greenwich Excellence and Best Brand Awards in the past decade, including 16 national and regional awards in the middle market and small business banking categories in 2020. We are consistently recognized as a leading workplace and have made a $250 million commitment to address social and economic inequities. We have a great day in store for you, with different types of sessions throughout the day and more than 50 different speakers. The panel discussions all day long are jam-packed with CEOs, private equity leaders, venture capitalists, and M&A advisors. The topics and themes cover the gamut of deal making and shine a spotlight on what's happening here in Northeast Ohio. We think you're really going to enjoy everything we've put together for you today. Plus, this year, we've added the opportunity to learn about several investment groups, private equity and venture capital firms, and what they look for in their portfolio companies. That special investor presentation series with 4 organizations sharing detail will take place from noon to 1 p.m. And since we know deal making involves connections, we've created numerous opportunities to network with one another today. So we hope you will explore the great features of this year's conference. While we can't be in person with you this year, of course, we've been able to pivot to this virtual environment. We hope you enjoy it, and we look forward to seeing you again all next year in person. Now, from our morning sponsor, KJK, to tell you about our amazing kickoff session for today's conference. Please welcome John Pinney. John?
Good morning, and thank you, Jeff. On behalf of KJK, we're elated to support this year's Dealmakers Conference. Even in these unprecedented times, deal making gets done. People are raising capital, experiencing liquidity events, making acquisitions, and selling companies. At KJK, our middle market clients are adapting quickly to the new normal of increased demand, skyrocketing M&A interest, highly attractive financing options, and of course, higher multiples. Like many of you, we're adapting to this new normal and evolving our thinking to continue to add value for our clients on a daily basis. So, with that in mind, we're excited to help kick off the day with our lead session, an M&A Dealmakers Roundtable, the new normal. We have an amazing quartet of active investors and M&A experts who are here to share their thoughts on the state of M&A, as well as deal flow in and around Northeast Ohio and beyond. This session is presented by our title and presenting sponsor, First National Bank. So let's meet our panel. First, welcome Joe Paluzzi, CEO of The Tilt and the former CEO of Content Marketing Institute and Content Marketing World. Next, meet Stuart Cole, co-CEO, The Riverside Company. And please welcome David Heller, Principal, President, and CEO, NRP Group. Now, let's meet our moderator, once again, Jeff Bechtel, Regional President, First National Bank. Jeff, take it away.
Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Smart Business Dealmakers Conference in Cleveland. I'm Jeff Bechtel, President of FNB's Cleveland region. FNB is honored to be this year's event sponsor. Our relationship with Smart Business and Dealmakers is extensive, with event sponsorships in Charlotte, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and for the first time in Columbus later this year. It goes without saying, we've all experienced tremendous change and disruption over the past year, and we have managed and led through tremendous uncertainty. But fortunately, the future appears a bit clearer now than it was just a year ago. I invite you all to listen in and participate in as many panel discussions as your schedule avails today. This will be a great opportunity for you to network and visit with many of the region's business leaders. I'm confident that you will be inspired by the sense of optimism and opportunity that exists in this Dealmakers marketplace right here in Northern Ohio. To kick off the conference today, I welcome three distinguished business leaders to join me this morning. Mr. Joe Polizzi. Joe is an Amazon best-selling author, podcaster, marketing speaker, and entrepreneur. Joe's the founder of the Content Marketing Institute and most recently, The Tilt. Mr. David Heller. David is the president, CEO, and co-founder of the NRP Group, which has grown to become one of the largest multifamily development companies in the United States since its inception in 1994. And Mr. Stuart Cole. Stuart is the co-CEO and managing partner of the Riverside Company, a multi-billion-dollar global private equity firm investing in premier companies at the smaller end of the middle market. Gentlemen, let's dive in. Joe, tell us about the pandemic and the post-pandemic transition you've made. You've actually took the opportunity to start up a company, which is probably atypical during these uncertain times.
Well, thank you, Jeff. First of all, it's great to be here. It's funny. I wouldn't have anticipated being on a panel like this because we sold our media company in 2016. I was totally going in a different direction, sort of semi-retired. I was writing mystery novels. And then, of course, the pandemic happens. And you said it. You said opportunity and optimism. And after, the first hit, and I'm sure the gentleman here will agree with some of this, after the first hit and we're trying to figure out where to go, you could just see so much opportunity. And so by the middle of last year, I'm thinking I was going to write another business book then. And then we started the new business you mentioned called The Tilt. I bought another media company that ended up being defunct and going out of business during that time. And I've never seen an environment like this that's so from an M&A portion in the media industry, which is my industry, but just with the opportunity to start businesses with fairly little capital. And that's what's exciting to me. And I think a lot of people are taking a different look at it. And I want to hear the other gentlemen as well. But I've never seen so much opportunity. So that's what I would implore anybody listening to this is, wow. I mean, who would have thought a year ago that we would be in this position? And we were probably, for a variety of reasons, better off than we were before we went into the pandemic from a business standpoint, even though we went through a lot of tragedy to get here.
No, that's fantastic. And I just thought it was a unique story and it's inspiring. And, we talk about a new normal, and I think would be insightful to share your thoughts. Perhaps, Stuart, is it really a new normal, or is it more, I think you would refer to as a next normal as an entrepreneur and a private equity investor? You see challenges and change all the time. Could you share your thoughts around that, please?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, again, for the opportunity and for that good question. I've increasingly am referring to this as the next normal rather than the new normal, because I think the reality of our world is that change happens. It happens more and faster. Industries evolve, and we need to evolve. And normal is implies a certain level of passivity, that you're kind of just sitting there and saying, "Oh, everything's normal." And I don't think that's almost ever the right attitude. I loved Joe's response to the pandemic. And look, I would never want to minimize what has happened from a health perspective, and is happening, where we are confronting in India what could be the greatest public health tragedy of our lifetime. Tremendous pain across the United States, Because it came simultaneously with such reckoning in terms of social justice issues, a particularly challenging time. But, and you knew there was a but coming, in the midst of that, we have had arguably the best 16 months in our history at Riverside. The M&A markets, as Joe implies, are on fire. They're red hot. If you own a company today, it's the best time of my 33 years of doing this to sell it in terms of the speed and certainty and price you're going to get. And if you're eager to buy a company, it's not going to be the best time ever in terms of a low price, but it is going to be a great time in terms of seeing more innovation, more opportunity, more new ways to make money, more ways to make companies perform better than I've experienced before.
Stuart, have you operated any differently over the past 16 months to make it arguably your best 16 months ever?
I think the pandemic had a way of clarifying things. It brought a certain level of discipline and focus. Look, I have very little to do with this. Hats off to the 330 Riversiders around the globe who made these results happen. And if we could get all of them to fit on the Zoom screen with us here, which I would love, I think they would say to you, hats off to the management team and the 20,000 plus employees of all the companies. And I think the interesting message there, and Jeff, you're in a great place to comment on it in terms of bank working with so many companies, and my friend David, of course, can sees it directly in the real estate markets. I think that what we have seen is just how resilient we are as an economy, as a society, and arguably even as a species.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the best word to describe the convergence of everything going on, the powers and the positivity that comes out of it. From our perspective in the banking world, we're in a really strong position, a healthy position, and we know our part in keeping this going. We provide capital, and there's tremendous competition and liquidity, and ultimately that makes its way to good deals for business and consumers. And it's very proud to be part of that. David, I know you have wonderful product and geographic diversity, but I sense there's a greater reason for your success, and it probably lies with your people.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate, Jeff, for you inviting me to be on here, and to my fellow co-panelists. It's great to be here with you. I also wanted to also express my condolences to the many Americans that have had to go through so many hardships, personal loss, and tragedy over the past year and a half. But like the others have said, it has been a time of resiliency, a time where we've been able to assess what was going on in the world, and to thrive. And it's something that's really an exciting time here at NRP. And you're right, it's because of the people. One of the things people ask me all the time, how did you guys do during the pandemic? And we actually fared very, very well. And we fared well because we've got an incredible commitment to our core values, and we've got incredible people. We have over 1,000 employees in 13 different states, and they've really dug deep. And worked hard, and many of them were on the front line. They were working in construction out in the field, and they were working in property management, dealing with the residents at our properties, making sure they were safe and the residents were safe, and all of the subcontractors. And it was a real test of their ability to adapt and to change and to execute during some very challenging times, and I couldn't be more proud of them. One of the things we talk about here at NRP is what it means to be an A-plus player, and our feeling is that at NRP we have A-plus players top to bottom. That A-plus players have actually an intolerance for working with B players. And so the way that they get motivated every morning is getting up and working with other A+ players. And so we've tried to create and foster that environment. And as a result, we've been able to thrive during some really challenging times.
Appreciate those insights, and I would wholeheartedly agree. Go to work, go to battle with the A team, and you're going to do well. Let me ask you a little bit about culture. I know, Joe, you're used to, living in a remote environment. I was reading one of your best interviews a little while back, and one of the early advice you got from somebody was to get some nice office space, and it turns out that it couldn't be anything but the opposite for your world. And of course, Stuart and David, different, several companies on Stuart's side, and David having that, magic culture inside. Joe, tell me about culture and how you maintain your company's culture through these times of challenge.
It's interesting. It's a great question, Jeff. I think that, I grew up in communications and learning about the practice of persuasion and the art of internal communications. And what I learned is the only way you can differentiate today is through how you communicate. Everyone can copy your products and services today. So communication is key. And I think we're seeing that now through people want to feel like they're part of something bigger. And they also are looking for flexibility because they know they can get it. They know they can get it on our terms. I read an article on Bloomberg. It was a couple weeks ago. It was called The Great Quitting. And people are quitting very, very quickly in a corporate environment right now because they don't like one small thing that before the pandemic was no big deal. And now they're like going forward, and they're like, hey, we know we can have this, and you're seeing a lot of movement. So what I would focus on, everyone listening to this, and what we always try to accomplish ourselves, is how do we create internal communication tools that make sure everyone knows what's going on and everyone feels a part of something special. So whether that's daily, a Slack channel, a Discord group, regular emails from top executives, team meetings, whatever it is, I think we have to relearn how to communicate in a corporate environment, because we got away with a lot more, which is fine. But now we've seen a 5-year acceleration in all technology usage. Everyone's gotten used to using this technology. They know everyone can do better. Everyone knows that, what it's like to deal with an Amazon. And so I think we've got to step up our game. And I think that's where a lot of companies right now are kind of flat-footed, where we've got to figure out, we do have to communicate regularly to build this culture. And so there's some work to do there.
Understood. Stuart, do you share those thoughts? Have you had to pivot at all in terms of your, maintaining the culture throughout all of your organizations?
Definitely, there's been a lot of pivoting over the last year and a half, and again, under the theme of the next normal, I think everybody should be prepared to keep pivoting, because I think that's just the nature of our world. I want to really endorse what Joe said about communication, always critical to maintaining and developing, enhancing your culture. There is no such thing as over communicating. None of us over communicate. It's literally not possible. People are eager and hungry and want to be a part of something, but communication is a two-way street, and sometimes we forget the listening portion of communication, and particularly in the Zoom world, where we think we communicated because we got on the Zoom machine and we talked a lot. That doesn't necessarily equal effective communication. I think the listening piece is something that's terribly important. And we are now facing the reality of that. Riverside, there's 61 of us who were hired during the pandemic and have yet to spend a working day in a Riverside office. So we have to figure out how we're going to truly make them, embrace them, and help them become a full parts of our culture, the way those of us who have worked together, some of us for over 25 years, have been able to do. And I think that there's a special challenge there for the newest and youngest of us at Riverside. I think that all those hours that I spent in an office as a young person did pay dividends. All those hours I spent actually meeting with real live human beings in offices or over meals, breaking bread together. did pay dividends. And how are we going to develop that for the newest and youngest among us, recognizing that some of them may not value that as much and may not want that experience as much. So it's a real challenge, and those are going to be the next pivots.
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to pick up on what Stuart said and what Joe said. I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of it is listening and communication and really understanding how to do that, because every business is different. And so I think as a CEO, really understanding your workforce and what you learned during the pandemic, where you thrived and where you had challenges, is something that you need to assess and to listen to your workforce and to listen to what the needs are. As Stuart said, in his business, a lot of people really grew and learned by being in the office. And in our business, we looked at the past year of the folks that work in offices and said, I'm just blown away by how they thrive not being in an office. So how do you balance the two of those? How do you create meetups and maybe different ways that people can have that social interaction, but then not have to be in the office 5 days a week, to offer that flexibility? Maybe they're more productive at home. Maybe there is a productivity at home that's different than the productivity that they have in the office, and you need a hybrid of the two of those. And so I listen to CEOs saying, let's get back to the way it was before. Everyone get back here and do what you did before. And I think that that's a bit of tone deaf to not understanding where the world is and how their workforce has reacted to this over time, and that there's a way, and I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think that, and that's what I think we all as CEOs need to understand. There is no right answer. There's just an answer for your company, and it's going to take time. It's going to be understanding of your workforce, giving folks the opportunity to express themselves and to thrive in a way. And look, I'm in a business that's a very deadline-driven business. So, you build it and you lease it, and we have to get our draws in on on a certain date, and the contractors have to get their invoices in on a certain date. So if there's someone slacking at home and not working, it's going to come to the forefront very, very quickly. So we don't sit around all day and worry about, well, is someone taking advantage of me? And I can't talk to about other businesses that I don't know how they operate, and maybe we're very fortunate. But being in a business where you have so many deadlines on a monthly basis, people that aren't working hard are exposed very, very quickly. And so it really hasn't been something that's kept me up at night. It's been something that I think we've been able to embrace. And we're excited as people have started to come back in the office and we see each other. But a lot of those folks are just coming in 2 days a week or 3 days a week and using those other 2 days to be highly productive in a remote setting. So I think it's really an exciting time.
Yeah, I appreciate your insights on that. We in banking, as you know, have a building downtown. Everybody come in looking like I do, and we go out and see our customers. We check in at the beginning of the day. We check in at the end of the day, and we didn't have technology to take home and log on. Well, now we do, and we understand and realize that we can all be successful doing this. To your point, David, I think there's going to be a perfect hybrid, but we have to figure it out. And because I really do enjoy convening with people on an unscheduled basis, and Stuart, to your point, growing those minds and teaching our younger folks, 33 years of experience and wisdom, something good's got to rub off on a young man or young woman. So it's harder to do that, but I'm really optimistic that we'll figure it out, not just as a company, but as an industry. And I'm really hopeful that there's some point of office, because as I look around downtown, I love all these great buildings. I love the commerce down here, and it's folks like us down here buying stuff that make this all happen. So I'm really optimistic and grateful. But let's take a little bit of a pause there. We talked about in conversations past the magic of what we've learned. And it's probably interwoven into a lot of the dialogue we've already had, but opportunities, flexibility, productivity. Give me your thoughts or your insights on where you think this could go. I know from a banking standpoint, I know we can get more out of the day now just based on what we've learned. I know we can have work-life balance that's appropriate. I know we can increase employee engagement. I know we can take our client servicing to the next level. That's kind of what we've learned. Give me your insights. Maybe Joe, I'll kick it over to you on what you've learned over the past year and a half or so.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. I think that I mean, so we're a small company. I mean, Content Marketing Institute, when we never got to more than 30 people, we're a 5-person startup right now. We can do things that larger companies can't. And we've got to take that to our advantage right now. So what we do is we don't have set hours. You have tasks to do, you do them when you have to do them. What we're moving to, we're all virtual, of course, and we will remain all virtual. And what we try to do, even to some of the points that were already brought up, I believe in serendipity. I believe that you've got to get people together. You don't know the types of interactions that can happen in person, but we don't have professional meetings in person. We want to schedule off time in person. So I want to get the team together, but it's not going to be a business meeting. We are going to get together socially, get to know each other, learn each other's wants, needs, understand each other, and then we'll become a better team because of that. So I'm trying to, as a competitive advantage right now, I'm trying to lean into that. So I'll give you a quick example. We got a really amazing, talented person to be VP of operations for us. And the reason why is because she didn't want to be in a corporate environment anymore. And she didn't want to go into the office, and she didn't want to do a lot of things that, we're after the pandemic, we got to go back to work. Well, that's the flexibility we can offer. That's a real competitive advantage that I think a lot of people can't do today. So that's where, people listening to this, that's what I think you're up against. A lot of new startups. And of course, we've seen there's more entrepreneurs launching businesses today than we've ever seen before. Wall Street Journal ran a great article about it, saying we're seeing the golden age, if you want to, of entrepreneurship. So that's where I think if you're a mid-size or large company, you've just got to rethink the way business, and the two gentlemen here have done a great job talking about that. But I would really look specifically at talent. The role of talent, how you look at it, how you hire for it, is completely changed with the speed up of technology that we've seen. And frankly, with people just realizing that the world is different and their priorities have changed. And I don't think they're going back anytime soon. I don't know if it's ever going to go back. I think that, I think the next normal is probably the right way to put it, Stuart. But I'm interested to see how the talent pool changes and how you're starting to see retail jobs open up that never were available before, corporate jobs, office jobs open up that were never available because you got talent that don't want those. So you're just seeing a mixing of the work environment, and that spells opportunity for people like us.
Absolutely. I mentioned the word in my opening dialogues, optimism, and I think again we've touched on it a little bit. But Stuart, if I could ask you to look forward and give me your thoughts about: are you optimistic about the future? Are you cautious? What gives you pause, if anything? What are your thoughts?
I am optimistic, Jeff, for many of the reasons that we've been talking about. Again, the resiliency that has been demonstrated through this is in fact the reason for optimism. The pandemic's been the great accelerator. So much of what's happened were not things that weren't happening. We just the pace of change, just what would have taken years took months or less. And I think that acceleration, we're not going to now put the brakes on. We're certainly not going to go in reverse. But I think that has unleashed forces that will continue to be unleashed. And these forces will create disruption. So when I talk about being optimistic, that optimism doesn't say everyone and everything and every business is going to do better. That would be, I think, very naive. There'll be acceleration means, in fact, if anything, there'll be more dramatic winners, which implies more dramatic losers too. You need to position yourself to be a winner, the way that Joe is positioning himself with his startups, the way that David has positioned his company as a national leader in its industry, the way Jeff, you're doing at the bank. That's our job as leaders, is to get the benefit of this acceleration, and that's why I'm so optimistic. For those who do that, I think the opportunities are outstanding. I wonder how perhaps entrepreneurs might have felt after World War II, a period of enormous disruption, when so many businesses were started, so many changes occurred. And is this, in a sense, a period like that?
Stuart, I really agree with you on the word disruption. And while we have an unbelievable optimism looking out into the future, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of wind at our back. There's a lot of reasons why people are renting multifamily housing, but that's not without challenge. And so what we need to do is position our workforce. If you look at lumber prices today, someone could look at and say, how in the world can you survive in being a developer and a builder of multifamily housing when you don't have the ability a lot of times to raise your rents, particularly in the affordable world? And so there are some serious challenges that we have as an industry. But what I look at is that that's today's challenge. And then tomorrow there's going to be another challenge, whether it's interest rates, whether it's like-kind exchanges. I don't have the crystal ball to tell me what it's going to be. But just as the pandemic hit us and we didn't know right away how to react, other things are going to hit us in the future. And so if we have that A-plus workforce, where we're working together, we're communicating, we're operating at the top of our game, whatever that challenge is, we need to be able to thrive and to be able to get around the other side of that mountain. And so that's what we're working with our workforce on, is to not get caught up in the fact that lumber prices are a challenge or other commodities that are out there. How can we look at that, make better decisions than our competition, move us forward, and make sure that every time a challenge comes at us, that we're able to respond to it, assess it, and move forward.
Fascinating, and I absolutely agree with you. Just to flip it a little bit, let's start with you, David. What is your greatest concern that you could share, either every day when you walk in or just looking forward in general?
You know, my greatest concern, and I've talked about it a lot, is the concept of the A-plus player and how deep and how much I can, when you grow to a size of 1,000 employees and you've got people making hiring decisions further and further away from the mothership of where you're making those hiring decisions, how do I make sure that everyone has that same attitude? The concept of an A-plus player isn't just that we're hiring great people. It's that A-plus players want to be around other A-plus players. So if you're performing, you're expecting that every person, whether you're in construction and you're working with the accounting department or the marketing department or turning a property over to property management, your expectation is everyone that you work with is an A-plus player. Well, they're all looking at you and having that expectation that you are an A-plus player. And so it's that circular motion of creating an entire organization that's built upon, it's not just a saying, I want A-plus players. It's actually the ability for everybody to function in that way through all different departments and have that expectation not only of yourself, but of the people around you. And so the further and further you get away, whether it's a leasing individual in Houston, Texas, or a maintenance person in San Antonio, or someone in Boston working in leasing, I just need to make sure that everyone has that same feeling, because it's you don't want to be the cog in the wheel that's making that A-plus movement go forward and forward. So that's actually what keeps me up at night, is making sure that and again, it's back to what Joe started the conversation with. It's all about the people. And if we can continue to make sure that we have those top performers, that's how I think we're going to thrive with whatever comes at us.
And I got to think that feeling permeates throughout the organization based on the culture. Everybody knows that.
Absolutely. And we talk about it a lot. So
yeah, for sure.
We're very, very open about that and what the expectations and it's really made a great positive culture shift.
Sure. Fantastic. Stuart, how about you? What's of greatest concern as you approach the day or the week or the year?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm in the risk capital business. I'm paid to worry every day about everything.
You're like my credit guy.
You understand, and I've gotten pretty good at it. I worry a lot. A couple of things I'll mention briefly. We can dig in deeper if you want. One is that part of the optimism and what we're seeing is the result of a remarkable experiment in aggressive fiscal and monetary policies, not just in the U.S., but around the world. And now those are continuing at a time when the consumer also has a legendary record, epic case of cabin fever, and is going to want to come out of the cabin and spend. Mm-hmm. Rarely, like once in a generation maybe, do you have a time when all the forces are kind of conspiring to promote growth and consumption, employment, and everything else. But there's presumably a price to pay. I think some of these experiments, in particularly modern monetary theory. We don't know fully what happens. And they are very much predicated on continuing low interest rates. Low interest rates have been the magic elixir. And if you could guarantee me that for the rest of my career or life, interest rates would remain this low, I would sleep a lot better at night. That's not, in my mind, the most likely case. And a lot will change as that changes. So that's one thing that worries me. I'll also mention that obviously with the optimism, I'm a believer in the resiliency. I'm a believer in our systems, and in particular that the market economy and capitalism have proven to be remarkable, not just in creating wealth for a few, but in lifting billions out of poverty. The problem right now is that it hasn't worked well enough for everyone. It is getting criticized fairly and unfairly by many. And it is running directly up against increasing forces of nationalism, which are here in the US, but they're also around the world. These forces are very real, they're very powerful, and they could put the brakes on the reason why I think that we have had as productive a period as we've had. It's incumbent on all of us who are in positions of responsibility to do what we can to make sure that the miracle of capitalism, if you will, that the benefits of the market economy are shared as widely and fairly as possible without killing that golden goose.
It's fascinating. As a banker, I have to react to an interest rate discussion a little. I will take the high road and say, I wish they would nudge up just a little bit so we can pay a better rate of return to our hardworking depositors that have money in the bank. They could earn a little bit better return off of that. We won't talk about the lending side of things.
Understood.
Joe, what are your thoughts on your concerns? Do you have any concerns? You look like you have a smile on your face perpetually.
No, I do. But two quick things that I've just realized lately. I just had a conversation with a recruiter that works with large local manufacturers and talked about how we're not filling positions quickly enough. We've got to change our hiring. He was talking about the pipeline situation that happened, that was attacked, that there were some open positions for months on the security side that weren't filled, and that led to a gap in their security. And we know what happened the rest of the time. Look at a local company like a Progressive that basically takes a 30-minute meeting and they make a decision on that, yay or nay, after 30 minutes. So that's a very, very different kind of paradigm change for companies. And so we've got to figure out fill positions quicker. The second thing that really concerns me, and this is right where I'm at, the pandemic has probably benefited companies like Amazon and Facebook and Apple more than anyone else. And what we've done from a communication side, we're too reliant on those big tech companies. For example, Facebook, where we're doing a lot of our communication from a marketing standpoint. I call that living on rented land. And you can't, especially they've been in real estate, you cannot live on rented land for a long time. What we want to do is we want to own our properties.
I'm sure you can't. No. I think it's good.
Okay, you got it. I was making sure you were listening on that one. What we're seeing, though, a lot of people do is instead of saying, look, I'm going to communicate on LinkedIn, Twitter, on Facebook, you're seeing companies like, if you're familiar with HubSpot, marketing automation company, $13 billion market cap, they went out and bought The Hustle, an email newsletter, a media company, for 6% of their yearly sales and marketing budget. So you're seeing people say, look, we don't want to be forced to communicate on these channels we can't control. We're going to go and have a relationship with our customers directly, and we're going to go buy media companies. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing non-media companies buy media companies. And that's going to be a trend you're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years.
Excellent. Appreciate the insights. We are wrapping up on our time here. Gentlemen, this has been very insightful. I am so grateful to you joining me today on behalf of the bank and Smart Business. Your insights and influence in the community is immense. And at this time, let's just pause and we'll flip the session over to our live Q&A. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Joe, Stuart, David, and Jeff. That was exceptional, informative, and a great way to kick off today's conference. We now invite you to meet with our panelists at the special after session. If you've not yet added it to your My Agenda schedule for the day, you can do so by going to the Agenda tab on the main homepage and adding it. We hope to see you over there soon. Thank you, everybody, for participating.